Hey guys, welcome to Thrive Bites Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for listening on. You could have been anywhere in the world and you decided to spend just a few moments of your precious time, and we greatly appreciate it. Here on the podcast, we talk about three things: living a plant-powered lifestyle, enhancing emotional resilience, and creating a thriving mindset. And I interview a range of passionate guests such as physicians, dietitians, coaches, entrepreneurs, and many more. And please join me as I deliver these engaging, informative, and high-valued conversations for you. And just remember, the first 5 seasons of the Thrive Bites podcast can now be found in the new TheChefDoc app, available in your Apple Store and Google Play stores. So what are you waiting for? Come on inside. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dr. Colin Zhu, and this episode we have a great guest for you guys today. I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Marjon. She is a double board certified and dual fellowship trained dermatologist in the Southern California region. She's also an athlete. She's also a vegan. And we talk about all things in terms of how she came into dermatology, a little bit about her family upbringing, and what are the things and reasons for her to transition to veganism and just embracing change, and what is her personal way of embracing change. So you don't want to miss this, and we'll see you guys inside. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of Thrive Bites Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for being here with us. You could have been anywhere in the world, and you decided to spend just a few precious moments with us, and we greatly appreciate it. So with us today, I am very, very ecstatic to have a good friend and colleague with us today. And her name, she goes by Dr. Marjon, and she is a double board certified and dual fellowship trained dermatologist, specializing in not 1, 2, or even 3, but 4 different specialties and areas of skincare expertise, which includes dermatology, Mohs Micrographic Surgery, Pediatric Dermatology, and when she's bored, clinical trials and research. She had all time in the world. Why not? She completed her training in a rigorous residency program in New York City, following an immediate faculty position at Brown University, serving as director of nail surgery and special procedures. And she has been in over 30 peer-reviewed publications in scientific journals, has given numerous lectures at national conferences, and has served on multiple committees. And she just happens to be vegan. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Marjon. Hello.
Hi, Colin. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are we today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. And I love the green, ensemble. You're definitely wearing your brand colors. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just excited to be on the other side of this screen when you've interviewed people like Michael Gerber and some of the amazing, plant-based physicians that you've interviewed.
Well, you know what? We love everyone. So there's no favoritism. We just love everyone because we care about passion, we care about storytelling, and we care about really what does Susan Benega says, the executive director of ACLM. She says passion, purpose-driven mission. Okay. And that's really what we're all about, is really digging deep on why we wake up in the morning, what fuels us, and what keeps us going, right? What makes us do the work that we do, besides pay bills.
Yes, definitely. Your ikigai. I love it. That's great.
All right, so let's start off. You're a dermatologist. I love to talk about the origin story of every superheroine. So with the audience that don't know about you, can you kind of tell them from A to B? You went from, not 1, but to 4 different specialties. So how did that, besides boredom, right? How did that translate for you? What was the moment or series of light bulb moments that said, hey, I think I'm going to do this, and then a couple more?
Yeah. So it's really, the journey of medicine, it's a lot longer than people think. A lot of people believe that, well, medical school is 4 years, so in 4 years I'll be done. That's just not the case. In 4 years, you'll have MD degree with nowhere to practice because you have to do residency. And once you get into residency, you realize there's an internship, which is your first year. Then you realize you may want to subspecialize, which is after residency, which is doing a fellowship. And then some people do fellowships and research in between their residencies. And that's sort of where I fell in. I started in general surgery. I did my internship in general surgery at a level 1 trauma center. I always wanted to pursue dermatology. I just wasn't sure if I would get in. But my first year I did general surgery, and I realized that gave me the confidence to be a surgeon. And I said, okay, I am going to pursue dermatology, but I think I'm going to pursue Mohs surgery or do more surgical procedures because I had learned that skill set during internship. And then from there, I participated in a research fellowship under a pediatric dermatologist, which actually led me to do a pediatric dermatology fellowship. So the experiences that I had actually before dermatology residency then led me to pursue these things afterwards, because I find all aspects of medicine somewhat interesting, no matter what field we're talking about. So now that I had picked up certain skill sets, I wanted to pursue them. And if you really don't like a skill set, you can let it go. But one of my first mentors was a dermatologist in San Antonio I had met during that general surgery year. And he said, a lot of people, when they're done with residency, will find themselves in a niche and only practice those diagnoses, and they'll forget a lot of the things they learned in training. He told me in your first 5 years, when you become an attending and finish residency, try your hardest to practice everything. And I love that. So now that I'm still within 5 years of finishing dermatology residency, I still do everything. I do surgical dermatology, pediatric dermatology, research, and I actively pursue that. I even contacted the nearby university and said, can I give lectures in pediatric dermatology? I don't want to forget it since most of my patients are adults. So it's really important right now that I cement this knowledge, because knowledge is a privilege too, right? Not everyone has the opportunity to go to school, finish, pay for how much it costs out here. So yeah, that's how I ended up. Got a skill set or an opportunity, and I ran with it. And I decided I wanted to keep them, all my skill sets. Yeah.
Was there other family members that also were in the medical field itself, or was there just a lot of educated, a lot of family members that pursued higher education? Like, what gave you that motivation to be like, okay, I want to do as much as I can?
That as much as I can attitude as actually came from me being from an immigrant family. No one in my family studied medicine. We don't have a nurse, physical therapist, nothing. Medicine is completely new to my entire extended family. Yeah, I remember applying and I had no guidance. Absolutely. I didn't have any mentors. It was actually really difficult to find my way of how to apply. You don't realize how much guidance helps, mentorship, prep classes, these things that other people may have been aware of. I didn't even have the awareness to know it. But I would say my grit comes from being an immigrant family that really did what they had to survive. And a part of likely me pursuing medicine is also not only because I love the sciences, which I do, I love science and statistics, but also that safety factor. I think,
what do you mean by safety?
So a lot of people see medicine as a safe career, that you can go anywhere in the country and practice medicine. Whereas, for instance, if you were a lawyer, which is a great job, you can only be a lawyer in that state, in that country. Medicine is very safe and universal. And you know that when you finish, you'll have an income. You're never going to be out of a job. And I think part of me pursued it for that reason, but that was not the main reason that I pursued medicine. But definitely, I think it was somewhere in the back of my mind.
Gotcha. Yeah, that resonates with me as well. I come from an immigrant family. Me and my little sister are first generation immigrant children. And my grandfather was a physician, and my mother and my aunt are both physicians, but they practice traditional Eastern medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. And so not a lot of mentorships except for my mother, which I'm very grateful for. And And she basically cultivated a foundation for me that kind of led me on this path. But I totally get what you're saying. Without that mentorship, without that guidance, without some sort of roadmap, it becomes as straight as like a plate of spaghetti. You're just bobbing and weaving, and you're just trying to find your way, and you're asking as many people as you can. And over time, you're developing your own internal compass and cultivating what I like to depend on most of the time is my gut intuition. What was it like for you? How do you navigate those decision making for yourself?
That, first of all, thank you for sharing that with me. I didn't know that, about your family, that you were from an immigrant family. So, how much that, sort of paves the journey. But for me, it's, you follow your desire. But I think when you are first generation, that you still have to make an income. You still have to pursue, being safe. Like, I think people like you and me, we may want to feel more comfortable having an emergency fund and things like that, because there may have times when we were younger where there were moments where our parents didn't have certain opportunities or the money and so we internalize that. Really, I would say the way that I had, first of all, as far as guidance, I didn't have guidance in the beginning. I had to make the mistakes and learn along the way. Now I have formulas that I use. Now when I don't know something, I will use Google. I will use YouTube. I will use ChatGPT. Like those, I would say a lot of what I've learned is from watching podcasts on YouTube or other, podcasting platforms, and Googling things and looking up instructions and how do you do, X, Y, and Z. And this year I've been using a lot of ChatGPT just for guidance. It's not concrete. You still have to figure things out, but I've actually utilized that a lot. And I think that's really, really common as well with Gen Z, with how they get their information.
Yeah, for sure. How does your family respond before we move on to the next question? How have they responded to your journey thus far, in terms of not just seeking higher education, but seeking these upper echelons of these layers, right? How do they respond? Is this something very foreign to them? Or is it, you know what, daughter, we're proud of you. Just keep doing what you love.
No, they're very, very proud. And because everything, that I did previously is rooted in education, they're very happy for me and would like me to pursue it. And what I run into now is if I do anything outside of that, like side projects, this and that, or my social group athlete think tank, they may express a little like, are you gonna spend more time in this than medicine? It's like, no, absolutely not. Like medicine is number one, but just a little bit of worry. For instance, like during the pandemic, I became very athletic, and then I started to meet athletic friends. So then my mom's like, these friends that you have, they're like doing, like I'm seeing videos of them doing skydive stuff. Are you going to skydive? Please. So it's like, of course she wants me to work out. But then if she sees me, me posting a video where I'm like lifting a barbell with weights on it, she's a mother. She's going to be like, do you know how to do that? Like, is someone helping you? It's like, yes, I worked my way up to that. So the medicine part, they're very proud of. Everything else that's new, they worry like any mother would worry. Or family.
Yeah. I think it goes back to this, the expression, people fear what they don't understand. And
absolutely,
a lot of times fear, besides the natural fight or flight, fear is a lot of times taught, right? And conditioned. And culture, as much as beautiful as different traditions and customs are, fear is also one of those things. I can speak from my own, cultural background, where it's kind of in the behind the scenes, in the back layer of the subconscious, to always be aware of the dark alley that you do not go down, right? But when you do a little bit more self-introspection and a little bit more exploration and being able to encourage curiosity, you find that the fear is more of a mental barrier and challenge to get over. So, but I do see this common thread in people of color and especially immigrants.
Yes, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear too with immigrants who have children that are influencers or making money through YouTube or drop shipping or any of these, modalities that are new ways to make income. A lot of fear. I mean, to the point where I've heard stories of people making money in their basement or in their bedroom, and their parents don't know about it, and they're in high school. So it's interesting.
They're like, what is this, a meth lab?
Yeah. And the kids just like making money, learning how to drop ship, or it's interesting. Yeah. Fear can really cripple you. I mean, we can have a whole conversation about that, but if you could overcome some of your fears just to try something new, go to a new place, hang out with people you wouldn't try new foods, you'd be amazed at the doors that open.
Exactly. I think one of the things is what I've realized and what I've learned is the concept of boundaries. And it's almost non-existent in certain cultures and people of color. And because we come from more tight-knit community-based units, right? Whereas Americans, where it's more of a individualistic minded and, go-getter, type of mindset, which there's pros and cons to each, right? Let's transition a little bit. You had talked about your think tank, your athlete think tank. Before we jump onto that, one of the things that really impressed upon me was the fact that, you're vegan. And I don't know too many, if any, dermatologists that are actually vegan. And on top of that, any doctors in general. I'm part of a very large network of providers that practice lifestyle medicine. So I have a lot of friends and colleagues, but you don't hear too many. So let's talk about that for a second. What were, again, the light bulb moments that you said to yourself, you know what, I'm going to adopt this lifestyle and do it for what? XYZ, right? What are the blanks? What was the reasons and motivators for you to adopt this kind of lifestyle?
It was a little bit of knowledge accrued over time that came to a breaking point. It started out with me being a teenager, and I had a younger sister that became vegan, and I did what a lot of teenagers do, which is I was like, that's dumb. That meat is great for you. You're making wrong decisions. As if why I was even giving my opinion on someone else's diet is silly. But your young siblings. So that was the first that I saw. And my sister is a reader. So she read so many studies, the China study in books, and really educated herself. And I went to medical school, and I didn't get any of the education that she got from books. When they say, there's only a few hours of nutrition taught in a 4-year medical school, it's true, as you know. And I think we had somewhere between 2 to 4 hours where they taught us what would happen if you didn't have zinc in the body, what would happen if you didn't have vitamin D. And they were very severe illnesses that they would show us. And that was my entire knowledge base. And all of us ate meat growing up. So we don't have another lens. And people that don't eat meat or have such a different lifestyle are threatening to us. We don't think, oh, I'm being threatened right now, but we act like it. We are not the kindest. We'll question a vegan. Why? Where you get your protein? How are you going to do this? How do you get this? And we come so strongly at vegans. When I look back at it now, when I was young, this 20 years ago, younger, I was the same way, because we don't have knowledge base. We're literally doing and eating what our parents taught us to eat, but they're eating what their parents taught them to eat. And we haven't really had nutritional research that was significant until, the last 100 years. And if a pharmaceutical company isn't backing it, then that research won't even, make its way into a journal, unfortunately. But I learned a little bit along the way. So I had a little bit of introduction from 1 or 2 people that I knew. Then I read the book Skinny Bitch, and I really only read it because I was a little overweight in high school. I wanted to lose weight, and that book had become really popular. And this book came out a few decades ago, but it had a cool title, right? So each chapter of the book is dedicated to a different food group. So it's grains, cheese, meat. And when you got to the dairy and meat section of the book, it was insane, the negative facts that there were about food. And the authors were two young women that all they did was put references, like footnotes and references. And I was very impressed. I had not seen such a casual book with this many references. And talked about all the negative effects of, not all, but a lot of the negative effects of dairy on your body, meat on your body. There were even surveys where that they had quoted, where there was a survey where they talked to people who worked in factory farms and said, have you ever harmed an animal just for the purpose of like being playful and that you got something out of it? And 100% of respondents said yes. Not because the people that are being recruited by factory farming are evil by any sense, but you become a certain way when you're around enough slaughter. And that was interesting to me. And I remember telling the book to someone that was very interested in losing weight. And she came back to me. She said, great book. I loved it. And I'm like, oh, are you going to make any changes to your diet? She goes, I'll cut out sugar and fat. And I was like, what about dairy and meat? The chapter was pretty robust on the evidence. She goes, oh, once you told me about that was going to change my mind on meat and dairy, I skipped those chapters. So just to show like how resistant people are, she genuinely didn't want to read or see the truth. Now, I am not a great cook, and I didn't grow up in a household where someone else cooked for me. I was privileged in that sense. I had a mom that made home cooked meals every day. So it was tough for me as a high schooler to be vegan. So the most that I committed to is being a pescatarian, which is that.
What kind of foods were traditional to your family and your ancestors?
Persian, so lots of kebab. It was like rice and chicken kebab. So I grew up on meat. I grew up on meat and dairy, and favorite foods was like always having a side of yogurt with all of my food. So huge. In fact, when I would tell people I'm a pescatarian in Persian community, they're like, oh my gosh, what do you eat? Whereas now we have some knowledge base, but like when I would go to Iran and tell people I was vegan or even pescatarian, I'd be like, I just don't eat meat. They would be like, okay, no beef, we will serve you chicken. Like there was just a very difficult concept for them. Although, that's changing. So then what happened? So I committed to being pescatarian. I was pescatarian throughout my adult life until Game Changers came out. Game Changers came out on Netflix, and they presented plant-based foods from an athletic perspective. And that changed everything. And it was such a popular documentary that to this day, it's the most watched documentary in the world. And it's led to more people becoming plant-based than any and all documentaries before it combined, and any and all programs combined. So more people switched to plant-based medicine. I also switched to plant-based medicine during the pandemic. And it was also a time where we had a little bit more time, where I also started working out. So I did all of that in conjunction, and I haven't looked back since. So I've been vegan for about 3 years.
Okay. So many things to comment. Number one is that's incredible. Persian. I didn't grow up with a lot. I do have a great friend. She's a half Afghan and half Iranian. And, similarly, the food is delicious, but very, very heavy in terms of grilling and using dry cooking methods, and meat heavy, a lot of rice, it's not naan, it's the pita. Yes. So, and what's interesting is that when you're talking about your culture and you're talking about other people that are, eating this way, food it's international, it's emotional, it's an expression of love, it's political, it's economical, it's so many different things, right? And especially when something is so integral to a community and a certain tradition, and you remove that, it's almost like you're removing someone's arm or you're removing someone's kidney in a way. It cuts that deep, right? And so it's challenging when you're focusing on bettering your health, or you're talking to a patient or a client and you're recommending certain things. And so those are the types of forces and barriers that we, as practitioners of plant-based medicine or lifestyle medicine, go through in order to overcome and be able to get on the quote unquote other side of healthy living. That's one point I would make. Second point is Game Changers. I had the privilege of watching it in the theaters when it came out. And I very humbled to have met and have heard those doctors and scientists that spoke during the documentary in person, because I've been with my professional organization for a very long time. And to be able to see people like that on the theater screen is very, very moving. And I think that the combination of seeing athletes and having, from an athletic, having your sport icon being able to say, hey, I'm making these changes and here's why, and I'm demonstrating it. And I think the biggest powerful motivator for any type of behavior or lifestyle change is, and you're already doing this, is you have to be the example and you have to lead and be able to demonstrate it for someone to say, okay, it can be done. And because I see it in my doctor, I see it in my provider. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I do agree. I am now meeting people that are plant-based and want their physician to be plant-based, which I also find, interesting. But yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's very interesting. Not many people come up to me and want to discuss why I'm vegan, but they do to my vegan friends. And I believe it has to do with the fact that I'm a physician. Most people don't want to pick a debate with a physician, to be honest with you, about nutrition. But it's interesting when you tell people you're vegan and they sort of do that thing of oh, well, I don't eat that much meat anyways. And they do the whole as if they're doing something wrong. My presence does not mean you're doing something wrong. If me telling you I'm plant-based makes you feel guilty, do you think you're doing something wrong? That's what I want to ask, but I don't usually. I'm more polite than that.
Why not? No.
Why are you getting frazzled and explaining yourself,
But you know what? You need that frazzleness. I think, okay, the doctor and patient relationship is a very sacred relationship. It's something that we are taught. We have to get training in. We have to hone. You talk about skill sets, right? But I would also add to this, from my own personal experience, is that you also have to add a layer of creativity. And this is where the art of medicine comes into play. You have to add a little bit of creativity and a little bit of finesse. And that takes a little bit of time and cultivation to be able to get to the root question or core of something, right? Whether it's a problem, whether someone is the way they is or are, right? To be able to understand what their motivators are. Because if you think about it, right? Behavior change, right? It stems from actions. Actions stem from decisions. Decisions stem from a certain belief or value system, right? So you keep going backwards, then it's really about what is their basic foundation of value? What is their belief and value system at the end of the day, right? So it takes a lot of finessing. It takes a lot of finessing and cultivating. And sometimes you just have to ruffle the feathers a little bit.
Yeah. So it's helpful if you have a worldly view, because then you can kind of zoom out and understand why one country adores dogs, but another country adores the cow, and another country adores, something else, and why we're all eating different types of animal, but this animal is sacred. It's just, I know a lot of people that get upset when they hear, that a dog is eaten in another country, and that is upsetting. But I think another country is going to be really upset that we eat cows. And to say that, oh, if I grew up in the other country, I would feel the exact same way I feel today is, I would question that. And that probably goes to the same as with religion. A lot of people are the religion they are because of the area they grew up in. I have met a few people, remember meeting a very religious Christian boy here in California. and California is predominantly Christian. And he vehemently said, if I was born in India, I'd be Christian. It's like, okay, that's what you believe in. So I'm not going to have a discussion or a disagreement with that person. They've completely told me that I'm not going to have a conversation with you because, you're not open-minded. So those types of people just like to make statements.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for hopping on to this week's episode. Guys, it's 2024. What is your intention for this year? Who do you want to become, and how do you want to feel? Some of the things that you might be, looking to do is to lose weight. Some of you guys want to get out of your family history and genetics and not play victim to your medical and health destiny. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's very, very important to kind of look at some facts and figures. For weight loss, 71% of Americans are overweight and 40% are considered and classified as obese. And these numbers are continuously rising. A lot of these are associated with a lot of medical issues, arthritis, gallstone issues, heart disease, cholesterol, diabetes, cancer, and the list goes on. And also having and carrying extra weight increases your risk for COVID. Also, in terms of chronic disease, 60% of Americans carry one chronic disease, 40% two or more. Whenever I get a patient, it's usually a laundry list of medications that they are taking at the same time. Guys, if you are looking for a different and alternative solution, I've created a solution for you guys, and that's in the form of group coaching. If you want to be coached by us, Dr. Zhu, and our team members, me and my team, I've set up a beautiful 12-week, 3-month program that's going to be led by your own respective group coach, also led by me teaching you expert classes, and we teach you on what to eat, how to shop, what recipes to go for, where to navigate the supermarket, your pantry, your kitchen, and learning all about sustainable strategies on losing weight and preventing chronic disease. So if you want to learn more, click on the link below, and we would love to set up a breakthrough call with you guys to see if we are a mutual fit. And I want to be able to cheerlead and advocate you guys and be a support for your wellness journey. So click on the link, schedule a call. We'll see you guys on the next one, and enjoy the rest of this episode. Yeah. It's a jostling, right? And it's a more of, what do you call it? A divisive environment. Why can't we just have healthy debate that leads to productive discussion, right? To be able to open up some wheels of change and open-mindedness and curiosity, so we can just learn from each other, right? I mean, why do we have to be enemies? Anyway, in terms of when you made these changes, did you notice anything about yourself in terms from a personal health standpoint? Did anything change within yourself when you made these transition to becoming more vegan?
Yeah, for me, I had more energy. I know that some people feel like if they would give up their meat, they would not. I would ask them to just on any social media platform like Instagram, look up vegan athlete, vegan bodybuilder, and you'll find a lot. I personally had more energy. I felt that exercising was easier. The first thing that you'll actually notice is weight loss. For most people, you'll notice weight loss when you give up meat and dairy. I noticed there was a desire to discover more foods. In no way do I want anyone to become plant-based by giving something up and not replacing it. That, the journey of becoming plant-based is giving up meat and dairy, but discovering seitan, tempeh, soy products, beans, legumes, peas. We are not asking, anyone to give anything up. There was some knowledge that makes me feel good. I believe everybody that becomes a vegan, there's for every year that you are vegan, over 160 animals are saved. And if you think about, sure, a cow is a big animal, but if you think about the size of a fish, a chicken, and how many times we're eating meat a day over the course of a year, I think that's fantastic. The fact that, those many lives are saved every year that I'm plant-based. As far as nutrition goes, the supplements that I take today are the exact same supplements that I took when I had meat and kebabs and all of that. For instance, I'm a woman, I always had a little bit of low iron. I take iron. Okay. I was taking iron back then too. I didn't notice any like difference. I take vitamin D. I was taking vitamin D back then as well. And when it comes to discussions with other people, I'm a huge fan of, answering any questions people have, but I pretty much engage in conversations where people are interested. Because people will be like, "Oh, you're vegan? Where are you getting your tofu?" Like, you can tell that there's some interest, that they have read on it. They're just a little scared to jump in. Whereas if you get the stereotypical questions of like, "Where do you get your protein? But aren't you losing muscle?" And you get those types of questions that are very generic, and you realize, okay, this person, hasn't really studied nutrition that much, or they're just asking those very basic raw questions that you can easily, get the answers to online. So I sort of just decide, as you stated earlier, to lead by habit. In no way do I preach about being plant-based. In fact, I tell people, you want to eat meat, go eat all the meat. It's not going to affect me on a personal level. Like, you can eat me next to me. I'm not bothered by it. My existence and me being healthy from being plant-based, is not a threat to anyone else.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of from a dermatology perspective, is there any literature from incorporating more plants, certain conditions? First things I think of is acne, right?
Yeah.
Acne, dairy, right? That's the first thing I think of. Eczema, psoriasis, right? I think about almost like a chronic inflammatory burden, right? That we may have some improved associations by going more plant-based because it has more of an anti-inflammatory effect. Is there anything that you've noticed that, wow, having after turned vegan, you started learning a lot more and you're like, wow, some of these conditions can actually be, improved, and maybe we may not have to be subjected to medications that have pretty harsh side effects?
I have noticed it, and this is different than what I was taught only a few years ago in residency, because the medical literature in residency can lag by a few years. Because in residency, I don't want to say all of your training, but a large portion of your training is what's on the test, what's on your board exam. Of course, clinically, you see everything, but that's sort of what you study towards. So in residency, when people would ask us if foods cause acne, we were taught to say, no, it does not, except for the milk in the milk in chocolate, not dark chocolate, regular chocolate. And the studies had showed that 2% milk and skim milk was worse than whole milk. So we were telling people, like, don't modify the whole milk. That was it. Now, I believe so many things cause acne. They just weren't studies before. First of all, the moment something is really diluted down, like creatine, whey protein, really a lot of protein powders, I am seeing so many muscular men that are coming in with acne. They are like, I'm not on testosterone. And I ask them, do you take creatine? Do you take whey? And they're like, yes. I'm talking about people that are very fit and they've had no skin issues. And right when they started, bulking up, that's when everything happened. And there is now evidence, at least anecdotally amongst dermatologists. I mean, we are talking about this. Whey protein and creatine is a huge contributor to acne. So is all of the additives in protein powders. Unfortunately, protein powders is a really unregulated industry. FDA does not check the protein powders before they're released. It's more on the back end, where once they're released, if they're causing, right now, any company can make protein powders and put a label on it, and it hasn't been approved by the FDA. That's why they have those signs that said, this bottle has not been approved by the FDA, these claims. And so we're seeing also additives and sugars in it. So if somebody with acne asks me, are there foods that contribute to acne? I say yes. Sugars, oils, dairy, high amounts of meat, and pretty much anything that's going to cause inflammation in your body. So like additives. These things do contribute to acne. I have seen people that have done isotretinoin. Many people know this as Accutane. It's the strongest medication for acne. It's the closest thing we have to a cure. I saw a young boy. He could have been a male model. He was very attractive for his age, and he was just covered in acne. We did the full course. He cleared up, and his dad brought him in 1 month later, covered in acne pustules. The type of acne I also see with food is not the deep hormonal acne. It's the pustules that you can pop. And I had never seen anything like it. I had not seen someone break out like that right after an Accutane course and getting so clear that I just thought, and this was genuinely my first question. I looked at him and I said, "Are you on the carnivore diet?" And I had never asked that to a patient before, but I had just heard about this diet a few months earlier. And his dad's like, "Yes, why?" And I looked at his dad and I couldn't believe that for the first time that I asked that question, I got it right. And I was like, "That diet, causes inflammation." He's like, "No, it's an anti-inflammatory diet." And I was like, okay. I mean, that was the worst case that I had ever seen of pustules after Accutane.
Yeah. What did they, so they never got off of it? They never got changed their diet?
They did not want to change their diet. So I didn't see him after that. I'm sure he probably went and got a second opinion. And I believe that they were asking, I remember they wanted to know if they can restart Accutane. I was like, it's a 6-month course. He had just finished it. And I said, "You can restart it, but if you go back to the diet, this will be the case." So I'm sure they went and got a second opinion and probably restarted Accutane.
I don't know if this comes from Hippocrates, but I have a little wall plaque in my other room. And it's a beautiful quote. And it kind of sums up kind of the bane and the pain of what most lifestyle medicine that practice food as medicine applications, plant forward medicine, things like that we have this barrier. And it gets summed up into this one quote. And the quote is, when you want to heal someone, they have to be willing to give up what makes them sick to begin with. And in this country, we like to think that it's the individual's fault. And a lot of times it's not, especially since post-World War II, when we had a lot of great increases in technology, processing, factoring, automation. 1970s, same thing, same concept that applied towards the food industry. That's where we started to see the obesity trends start to spike and kind of do this roller coaster upwards since the 70s. And so it has a lot to do with our environment. We are constantly surrounded with 2,000 extra calories all the time. And so, and I can go on and on about this, but it's not just the individual. It is the individual. It's partly individual. It's also partly we're just not set up for success. And so one of the hardest things to do as practitioners is, number one, we talked about education. With education comes awareness. And then with education, you need the creativity and finesse to help others to implement it for their lives. And then at the end of the day, there are some people that just don't want to get better. They don't want to, they just rather just take the Band-Aid is what I like to call. They just like the quick fix. They just want the Band-Aid and then that's it. They're not willing to pull the weeds out, right? They just want to chop the top off. So.
Yeah, a lot of people find change as hard. I've had people tell me, I don't like change. Well, and that's unfortunate to hear because life is change. Every day is change. You're going to grow older. If you're single, you're going to get married, have children. It's all change, right? The seasons change. So if you don't like change, you're making life really hard on yourself. Something that I did that I think helped me on my journey to becoming plant-based and working out more is I recognized this, and I had done enough fad diets that I was so tired of it. And I was like, enough is enough. Like, you're in your 30s. You really want to just be healthier and be better. And so I said, why don't I work on liking change? why don't I actually work on embracing change? So I would give myself like a small, some people will not consider this small, but given the changes I made, this more on the smaller side. Like I was like, I want to give up caffeine. Okay. So rather than doing this overnight, which is what most people do, I was like, I'm going to give myself 3 months to give up caffeine. And if I can't even do it at the end of it, that's fine. 3 months. So I researched like what are the best caffeine alternatives or the best decaf, what's the best organic, And I would order different like samplers of one like bags that are like one time, coffee bags and like
it's like a mixed sampler.
Yeah. And one day I was like, well, if they can make coffee out of a bean, are there other hot drinks that can be made out of a bean or root or something? And I did. I found like there's a root called chicory and it tastes like tea and it tastes like coffee actually. So I like discovered and I gave myself 3 months to try it. And then by the end of 3 months, I had fallen in love with another drink. And here's what's funny. This one I initially failed at because the other drink that I fell in love with, I went from drinking coffee every day to drinking matcha lattes. I thought matcha didn't have caffeine. And I'm using an example of a mistake I made but here's the thing. I had taught myself that your goal is really to embrace change. And so even if you fail, you're going to also be nice to yourself. So if you fail, you're going to laugh it off. So I laughed it off. And then I gave myself 3 months to give up matcha lattes. And I did. And so I am caffeine free now.
So it took you 6 months.
It took me 6 months. Yes. But what I did after that is every 3 months, I embraced a new change. So one change was like, I want to go from sleeping 6 hours to 8 hours. I did it slowly. I listened to podcasts with Matthew Walker and give it all how we're all going to die earlier if we don't sleep 8 hours, but slowly the working out more, the becoming plant-based, I did it all over time to the point that, and then when you see yourself getting better and your life is getting better, to the point that I was like, I love change. I remember you're into it being like, I love change. I can't wait to the next change I make. Yeah. And I didn't like change before. I was just like everybody else. Right.
I love it. I love it. You actually answered my my last question. My second to last question is, what would you tell other non-plant-based physicians or even just patients in terms of what's the best ways to take the next steps to embracing change? So you're actually already answered it. And I love what you said about taking small steps. And the second point to that, small, and then also being kind. I think we're conditioned as a society to really just beat ourselves up. And it's very no pain, no gain, go big or go home. It's a very extreme or nothing concept or condition or notion to go about doing things. When we're trying to adopt healthy lifestyle, we need to do the small changes. I like to use the analogy of everyone wants to climb Mount Everest. Why don't we just hop over the small anthills first, right? Let's not step on them, but small, equivalent sizes of lifestyle change before we ascend such a behemoth, right? Mentally. And I'm glad that you shared that. I love the fact that you did it on your own. We talked a lot about not having that mentor and not having that guidance. And at the end of the day, if it's a little bit outside of your comfort zone, I think that's a good feeling to have, to know that you're in the right direction for change. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, I think you're on the right path.
I really like that and I absolutely agree with you. And I would say in this weird paradoxical way that my mentors, I would look up YouTube videos of experts, and my mentors in a weird way were Dean Ornish and Neil Barnard. And I was like, when I realized that there were doctors that knew more about nutrition than any doctor I had ever met, I searched them. I watched every interview they did. I became knowledgeable in the field. We didn't go that much into statistics or facts, but just some things that still resonate with me that I remember is hearing that Do you remember the milk campaign ads of the 90s and early that said milk does a body good? They had all the celebrities and athletes with the milk mustache. That was a great campaign that lasted for a long time. And we all grew up like with milk. And in my elementary school, you were not allowed to get food without taking the milk. So people who were lactose intolerant had to like go and throw out the milk. Like that's how much it was forced to us. But the reason that you don't see those ads is that the FDA did enough research comparing diets with dairy versus plant-based, and the evidence always showed favoritism as far as health goes to being plant-based, that the FDA told the dairy industry they cannot say milk does a body good. That is why those ads don't exist anymore. So if the FDA can tell them that, because you can't say a statement like that. And, right now the cereal brands are coming under fire because there's such sugary breakfast items that are claiming to be good. So right now they can't say those things either. Eventually the FDA, if there's enough evidence, that comes for them. So when you're ready to learn the facts, when you're ready to learn about what diets are the best for you, maybe the best diet for you is not 100% plant-based. Maybe starting slow and doing Mediterranean or just meatless Mondays is a way to go until you learn the knowledge that, you want to learn, that you're ready for.
Yeah. I mean, we can go a whole nother episode just with facts. Even if we talked about just animal agriculture, even if you put nutrition aside, the world can't sustain. We can't last forever just on animal-based agriculture. We won't have a planet anymore because we would have used all the land that's inhabitable just for grazing the animal livestock. So I think the small changes help. And like you said before, we're not telling people to go completely vegan. It's incorporating as much plants into your lifestyle as much as possible. And if everyone did that, I think we would actually have a chance of being sustainable. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it was a really beautiful, comprehensive, full circle of just getting a little snapshot of Dr. Marjon. How can someone reach out to you if someone wanted to learn more about you? What is this athlete think tank? Share all the good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. So my personal Instagram is Dr. Marjon, dr.marjon. I'm happy to, answer any questions anybody has. So I'm the medical director and founder of Irvine Dermatology. That's my clinic in Orange County, California. And the Instagram for that is Irvine Dermatology. And we're on Facebook too. And then I am the founder of Southern California's first athlete social group. It's where we do quarterly dinners with professional athletes and entrepreneurs that are into athleticism. We meet quarterly just to make business connections, meet and greet, make new friends. And that is Athlete Think Tank. That's what we are on Instagram and Facebook. Anyone's welcome to join the group. It started last year. It's really successful. We're having our third dinner next month in San Diego. We started in Orange County. Now we're going to San Diego and we'll hit up LA next. So it's been really exciting and it's been amazing meeting so many just exciting athletes, new people in the dermatology space. And funny thing, my Athlete Think Tank group, who is consistent of, everybody works out in the group, a lot of athletes. When I think about how many people are plant-based that come to those dinners, 1/3 are plant-based at the moment. So I think those are really high numbers compared to the fact that only 1% of the population is plant-based. So absolutely, you can be muscular and fit on a plant-based diet.
I love it. I love it. And it comes back to what we were saying before, that you have to see it to believe it.
Yes, I agree.
And that's one of the biggest powerful motivators. Dr. Marjon, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It was a beautiful conversation, and please keep up the good work and everything that you do. And, I can hear your ancestors just go, Marjon, keep going, keep learning.
Thank you, Colin. That's very nice of you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Thrive Bites Podcast. If you like this, please subscribe, like, and comment. And if you felt like this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And until then, please say goodbye to Dr. Marjon. Bye.
Everyone, have a good night.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoy that episode. If you like that, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. And if you felt that this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And also remember that the first 5 seasons, 150 episodes, now can be seen and heard on our new TheChefDoc app. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating, and we greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.